What's your opinion this quote? Can't feed them, don't breed them. Oh wow. Read through a lot of the comments, and I have to say, I never thought of kids, but of pets. I think mine eat better than I do, and I am pretty meticulous. So, story time. I had a barn, and people dump cats at barns. My rule was, if you show up here, you get spayed, neutered, you get shots, you get food and water, you get shelter, and you get attention. Well, this one cat showed up, with 2 kittens. She was so skinny, we didn't realize she was pregnant. We already had 2 barn cats, now we were up to 5, and she had a litter of 6. So we're up to 11. I rounded them up, and fortunately my vet gave me volume discounts, so we got most of them squared away, but there was one I could not catch on that day. She ran off, and returned weeks later, yes, pregnant. She was young and had a small litter, and we were up to 16. Nailed them all with the spay, neuter, shot steal. I only feed top quality, so holy shit. I didn't breed any of them, but they had their own ideas. Found homes for most, took care of the rest. You're fucking amazing. I hope you know that. People who treat animals like this are pure gold. I wish you all the luck and happiness in this world. I was the result of someone breeding me into the world and feeding me, but even as a kid, I had very few clothes and other basic necessities. I was one of the poorest kids in my school. Living as a child, forced to wear the same clothes almost daily while you see other children having so much more than you is not a happy life to live, no matter how many justifications one can try to find. It's for that reason I refuse to allow my future children to suffer in a similar fashion. Same. I'm going the extreme route of not having any kids. Some months, unexpected expenses mean I can barely make ends meet. I can't imagine how hard it would be with a tiny human involved in the mix. If you can't feed them, eat them. Based and hamster pilled. Then make contraceptives easy to get and less expensive. Then grasp the idea that abortion sucks but can be necessary. And don't turn away younger men who want a vasectomy. I tried when I was 21 and was told they refused to do anyone under 30. Bitch. I don't want these genetics carrying onwards. This line ends with me. Agreed. But access to abortion and contraception seems to be the bigger issue here. People are going to have sex, we can't and shouldn't try to control that, but we can and should try to make options accessible to people. I think it's safe to say that most women do want their children to be safe and healthy, but unfortunately it doesn't always work out that way. We're so quick to judge people for things that are so often out of their control, and I find that very frustrating. My taxes pay for the fire department to come save your home even though you accidentally left the stove on and caused the fire. No one will ever say, "Welp, if you can't guarantee your house won't catch fire then you shouldn't buy a house," because we all know that bad things happen, and that's why we have services to help people out of situations beyond their control. I don't understand why services like abortions and education and products like contraception aren't available to women who need and want them. But we have no issue with our taxes going towards emergency services and other types of infrastructure that are needed for all the other mistakes and accidents that happen in our lives. As with most bumper sticker length wisdom, it ignores reality. I appreciate the sentiment of, if you can't afford kids, don't have them. But life can change at the drop of a hat. How many people got pregnant 18 months ago, had a roof over their heads and decent jobs? They were ready to start a family. Now, they are unemployed because they lost their job due to COVID, and the only reason they haven't been kicked out of their house, apartment is because of the temporary ban on kicking people out? Or, how many people lost a spouse due to an unexpected illness or an accident and are now single parents that cannot afford the kid they had? So, it is easy to say, if you can't afford a kid, don't have one. But it is also easy to go from being able to afford one to not being able to afford one by one stroke of bad luck. So, how about instead of judging people we just fucking help them and treat them like human beings? This can also tie into the bigger message. Poor people shouldn't be allowed to have children. Only rich people should have children. Poor people shouldn't even be allowed the pleasure of sex, just like they aren't allowed to enjoy decent food, clothing that looks nice, furniture that isn't broken, a cell phone that works, or any other thing that other people can enjoy. Hell, if someone knows you're on food stamps and you buy a sex toy, you'll still get criticized for that even though a dildo never got anyone pregnant. Poor people don't deserve to have children. That's what is actually being said. Once again, people who are poor are being blamed for being poor. Once again, being poor is boiled down to personal bad choices, which, yeah, can contribute to poverty. But I've seen plenty of middle-class and upper-class people do all sorts of stupid shit, from hard drugs to driving drunk. The difference is that when they fuck up, the fuck-up is taken care of through lawyers and money, or they just buy more drugs and pay their way out of jail, so more money. There is absolutely no attempt to understand that poverty is cyclical and often forced on people. Once you're poor, trying to get out of poverty is excruciating. There's a reason people say, claw your way out of poverty, and that's because it's what it feels like. The expression is eugenicist, classist, and a big red flag that you're dealing either with some dumbass kid trying to be edgy, or some even dumber dumbass adult idiot with zero understanding of nuance, empathy, or basically any of the things it means to be an adult. It's an entitled oversimplification of a systemic problem surrounding both economics and education. I think cats has their own, networking, and they tell each other on which places are safe for giving birth. Lol. Cats has been giving birth at my home 5 times. It usually started with one pregnant cat hanging out, then we gave them leftovers, then they gave birth, and they slowly disappears one by one over the course of 3 to 4 months. After all of them gone, another pregnant cat comes again and the cycle repeats. Tiger King should have learned that saying. Just saying. Carol fucking Baskin figured it out. Just feed them your husband. Edit. Thank you for my first award. Smiley face. People's life circumstances can change very quickly. My dad had a decent enough job and was able to provide for us. He had bought a house, paid for health insurance, good food on the table. One September he went to the hospital for some minor chest pains. He was dead by December from lung cancer. He was in his mid-30s. My mom with us 5 kids would become one of the poster women for, can't feed them, don't breed them, but she could feed us, until our dad died. When I bring this up, people bend over backwards to be like, oh, I didn't mean your mom. I meant, insert exaggerated stereotype here, and how do you know the same thing didn't happen to them? When you see a woman in the grocery store and you judge her for using food stamps and having 4 kids hanging off her cart, how do you know she didn't watch her husband die? You don't, so back off. Also, on an ideological standpoint, it is ridiculous that 2 people working full-time can't afford to have 1 or 2 kids, but up until recently that was the position my husband and I were in, and we were making well over minimum wage. I never wanted kids, but I wouldn't judge someone for having one even if their finances aren't in perfect order. Reproduction is one of our strongest impulses as a species. It's different when you have a ton of kids, but considering it's extremely natural for people to want to have a child, I don't think it's right to take that away from someone just because they don't make as much money as we think they should be. On a financial side, it does suck to pay for other people's bad decisions, but support and education is how the generational poverty gets broken. If a woman decides to have 15 babies to mooch of the system, I probably would not like her as a person, and there would be an argument about whether or not she should even have custody of those kids, but I would want those babies to have a chance at a stable life. I want those babies to be able to have a shot at a good education and a good career. Yes, that means more taxes go to social safety nets, but it's better than the alternative of starving kids and inescapable poverty. I am in a similar situation. We planned for a kid. Not for a fucking pandemic. Thank God we saved a lot of money. This comment needs to be up top. We don't know people's circumstances and on a whole tend to be way too quick to judge. I'm so sorry this happened to you. It must have been really hard for you. I always took the saying to mean, if you know you can't afford a child, do not purposefully bring one into the world. I understand the importance of all the, but what if something goes wrong after? And, not every pregnancy, baby is wanted, arguments. But if you right now are unable to take care of a child adequately, do not have one. I agree with this. Many people where I live seem to pop out their kids and rely fully on child benefit and welfare. And enough kids still don't eat, so they opened up schools to feed them lunch in summer. In the middle of a pandemic. Did it surprise you that they eat food? That costs money?